What's up, everyone? Welcome to Around the ACL. I'm Michelle Thompson. I've got Jake Brandon with me, and we've got a new face on the show.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Jake, I'll let you handle this because you did all the work for me.
Yeah, we realized that we need some new analysts on Around the ACL now that Trey Ryder is gone. And what better kind of analyst to get than an actual pro cornhole player? We are joined by Mr. ACL Pro Mike Hoffman. Mike, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me. Big shoes to fill, but glad to be here.
Yeah, talk me through how excited you were when I asked you to become an analyst on this show. Step in for this week.
Well, I was so excited. I called you yesterday thinking we were filming or we were taping on Monday. So,
I'd rather that than 2 days after.
I'm in the car driving to the airport, and Mike's like, "Are we doing this thing?" I was like, "Yeah, we're doing it tomorrow when I get home." Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you doing it from the car, Jake? That doesn't seem like how you normally do it.
Oh no, we have high standards here on Around the ACL, Mike. We gotta not be in the car on a cell phone.
Hey, I've been listening for a long time, so even back to the old Facebook days. So,
oh man,
appreciate you, allowing me to join you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, bringing it back to bracket breakdown on Monday night.
Right.
That's right. All right. Well, we are going to, of course, talk about Open number 6 that just happened in Wisconsin. That was a lot of fun to watch. Jake mentioned it several times where it was a smaller field, but it was a really talented field. And there were some definite stars that stuck out. And then we'll wrap it up with Overreaction Wednesday to see what our analysts think about some potential lines that I've come up with and see if they agree, disagree, and we'll go from there. But before we get into it, Jake, you mentioned on the broadcast that you're a big fan of the area. Just talk to us about what you liked about La Crosse.
Yeah, La Crosse was awesome. So, going into the event, I didn't do any research. I didn't look anything up about La Crosse. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have any expectations because, again, smaller city, kind of, in the middle of nowhere. The only really flight options, unless you fly into a really small La Crosse airport, was like Rochester, Minnesota, which was an hour and a half away, or the even dumber decision of what Corey and I did was flying into Minneapolis, St. Paul, which was a 2.5 hour drive away. But we ended up doing that anyway. It ended up working out great. But yeah, it's a small little town right on the bank of the Mississippi River. We did not know this coming into it, that there are 3 different colleges in the city of La Crosse. So it is a major college town. I think the very first night it was like me, Corey, Josh, and Daniel. We all went to go grab dinner. And the next thing we know, we just see a bunch of college kids flooding in because they did a college bingo at 8:00 on a Wednesday for some reason. So we ended up playing that. It was actually really fun. But besides that, I have never seen more bars and restaurants in a 3-block stretch in my entire life. I counted. Corey and I, we walked through and counted 19 different bars in a 2-block stretch. The craziest thing I've ever seen. And Corey and I, we had a mission. We tried to go hit as many as we could on Friday night after we were finished. And we hit, I think, 14 of them. Friday night was a crazy night. But besides that, cornhole action was even crazier in La Crosse. One of the most fun opens I've ever had a chance to attend, but also commentating wise, because we had some incredible games all weekend long. I was so happy I had the chance to go out and explore it, and I'm happy that you guys had a chance to witness some of the matches that we had, because we had some crazy stuff going on, man.
Yeah, we definitely did. Mike, how was your weekend?
Yeah, no, it was a pretty busy weekend. I had my sister's birthday, so I had to travel up to Pennsylvania and then go visit my parents. I helped my dad chop wood, and then it was all like watching cornhole, UFC, the Masters, So it was a pretty relaxing weekend. And about La Crosse, real quick, if I could just add, I'd never heard of it before, so I actually had to look on a map to see exactly where it was. And I was a little bit surprised, that it was on the western side. I figured it was just a suburb of Milwaukee, but it looked like a nice place. And I little history about it. It was a town built on the fur trade and lumber. So it didn't surprise me at all when I saw where it was. So.
Okay. Yeah, right on the Mississippi River. It was pretty cool. I highly recommend we go back. So anybody in ACL listening, make sure we go back next year. That's pretty cool.
I loved Milwaukee when we went a couple years ago. Yeah. I thought that was such a beautiful, I think I really love that area. But once again, I've never been there in the dead of winter. So it's hard to give an opinion to those who live there and have to deal with that. But let's get into all the cornhole action, starting it off with doubles. Logan, Chamberlain, Gavin, Cano were your winners there. No surprise. We talked about our predictions being between them and Mark Richards and Tony Smith. So they were able to get it done. Mark and Tony were right in there, and no, just no surprises. I guess we call it, chalk, right, Jake?
Yeah, no, for sure. It was, as crazy as it is talking about Logan Chamberlain and Gavin Cano, they weren't really the highlight and the story of the entire weekend. But before I get into who and what was, we got to talk about Logan and Gavin. I mean, again, another incredible performance. They didn't really look bad all game long. They went 5-1 in rounders. Also, shout out 156 doubles teams in rounders. So again, like we said, not one of the bigger ones, but the talent that we had there was crazy. Only 2 undefeated teams throughout all of rounders. That was Brett and Matt Guy and Ethan Farias and Gabriel Clausen. So shout out to them. Logan Chamberlain, Gavin Cano did go 5-1 in rounders. They lost one of their rounders games to Jack McKinney and Jayce Fleisher. So, the 2 best teams were right there in the end anyway. But again, like, there's not really much to talk about, right? Because they looked good. The number 5 team in the pro division, even though, again, they don't have a Final Four broadcast appearance because they've made the bracket final all 3 times, have not finished worse than second in the last 3 signatures or the last 2 opens because they won the last 2 opens. And the couple matches that we saw, they didn't really struggle, right? We saw them play Brett and Matt Guy on the live stream court. They beat them 23-4, wasn't really close. They played Jack and Jayce in the King Seat game on the live stream court. It was 22-17. It was a little back and forth the entire time, but nothing that they couldn't handle. They ended up falling in game 1 to Jack and Jayce in the double dip scenario, but then they came back and battled back to win it in the end. What really more can we talk about, right? I feel like we talk about them every event. I'm trying to figure out what the difference is between the open event and the signature events. Is it something mentally in their head that they can't get past, or is it just the level of competition at these signature events is so much greater than at the open events? Because, they're not playing against Ryan Wiedenfeld and Chris Roybal, but, they're playing against other teams. Like, they played Brett and Matt Guy and beat them pretty handily. I think they escaped without having to play Mark Richards and Tony Smith, which was fortunate for them. But those are the only really 3 or 4, solid pro doubles teams that were at the event, and they walked through all of them and had no problem. So shout out Logan Chamberlain and Gavin Cano, one of the top 5 doubles teams in the world. They're still my pick to finish the season at number 1. I still think they can, but they got to get the ball rolling in just a couple weeks in Cleveland, Ohio. The other team we got to talk about, right? 2nd overall, Jack McKinney and Jayce Fleisher. It really was the Jayce Fleisher show, and we'll talk about it a lot more when we get to singles, so I don't want to harp on it too long there. Jack McKinney, one of those players that started a couple seasons ago. I remember him playing open doubles with Brendan Seachuk at the Brighton, Michigan Open a couple years ago, and they didn't do very well. And Jack McKinney has just taken off like an absolute rocket. Good performances all weekend long in not only open doubles, but in juniors and high school. I think they finished 2nd in junior doubles as well, only losing to Emax and Gabe. So big shout out to them. Obviously, Jayce Fleisher, the man of the hour, but Jack McKinney cannot go unnoticed. Another kid from Michigan. Michigan is starting to come up in the rankings. I like them a lot. Brett and Matt Guy, right? They're always so confusing. I feel like it's always a topic of conversation on Around the ACL. Can they get the job done? What do they need to be able to break through and get a win? If there was ever going to be an event that it happens at, it was going to be at an event like this, a smaller level open. They smoked everybody in rounders 6-0. They had 3 shutouts in their 6 games, only gave up 13 points overall in rounders. Absolutely unheard of. And then they just ran into a buzzsaw of Logan and Gavin in the bracket in the semifinals, and they ran into a red hot Jack McKinney and Jayce Fleisher in that 3rd place game. So a solid 3rd place finish for them. Do they have what it takes to get over that hump and get a bracket win? I don't know, and it's simply just because of the style of gameplay they have, right? They are strictly a bag running team, and these players and team is starting to learn how to figure out how to combat the bag running mentality of Matt and Brett Guy. And because, again, the 2 teams they lost to all day long, Logan and Gavin, Jack and Jayce, what do? They block, they roll, they dirty up the board. When you do that, that is the only thing that I would say Matt and Brett can't do to the level as everybody else. If you're keeping a strictly clean board, I would take Matt and Brett 10 times out of 10, especially this weekend. They were on fire. But you get a couple blocks on there, you get a couple dirty style rounds, it's hard to beat. Other players, other teams we got to talk about. How about the run for Samantha Finley and Zach Aiken, right? Tied for 5th overall. It's one of those unique teams. That's why I like opens. You don't see pro teams playing with each other. Samantha Finley, Zach Aiken had a couple of good runs, had a good win on our broadcast court. I like it a lot, right? I wouldn't hate to see them two run it back, just run into again a buzzsaw, right? Ethan Ferris and Gabe Clausen, who ended up finishing 4th, just came up short against Brett and Matt Guy, 22-20. Emax and Gabe are right there too. Emax had a good weekend. Gabe had a fantastic weekend as well. The other only big surprise I see, Sebastian Schaefer Ford, PJ Knott, defeated Mark Richards and Tony Smith, finished tied for 5th. It's a team that you don't really see a lot, both ACL pros, but both I would call them middle-tiered ACL pros. You're never going to see them, in a big bracket final unless something crazy happens. So shout out for them. Good run, 5th place finish. Sebastian Schaefer Ford is just a monster, 7'6" tall. He just has to reach his arm out and drop it in the hole. So that always goes a long way. But what a fun event it was, right? It ended up going pretty chalk in the end, but you see a couple of new people start to shine in Jayce Fleisher and Jack McKinney. So who knows what's to come next?
Man, it's always about those kids.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on doubles, Mike?
Yeah, well, not a lot of meat left on that bone after Jake just went, but no, I want to go back to Logan and Gavin. When you looked at the brackets, the left side was definitely the heavier bracket, the heavier side of the bracket, more difficult path, certainly than the right side. They beat David Brown and Chase White, 2 great players, followed up by Landon Crabtree and Riken, and then had to meet Jalen Jones and Colin Hodette. I mean, right there, that's not an easy path to get to Matt Guy, then to get to the final. So they earned every part of getting to the championship match and then, winning it. Wasn't an easy path. Like you said, it was a smaller field. It was only 53 teams, but it was definitely weighted on their side. What I noticed about and have noticed about Logan and Gavin is that I think they're, I see like really good chemistry. It doesn't seem like they're competing against each other ever for, who's going to be the Batman, who's going to be the lead on that team. What I saw was Logan has, a higher PPR, was pretty consistent. But DPR wise, that goes to Gavin. So it just seems as a team, they're smart together. I can see them deferring to their teammate who's going to be the point who's going to generate the points. Because I think in the end, all they care about is winning. A couple disappointing, performances. And when I look at the bracket, Ethan and Dave Morse, great team, fell a little short, just like Mark and Tony. Another team that you expect to get a little further. We'll save the discussion on Jayce and Jack, for the next segment, I'm assuming. But I got to give Jack a lot of credit. I, saw a little bit of him play this weekend for the first time. It was a kid I've seen before, but never resonated. Kid can really shoot. So it was a good tournament overall, and I'm sure you enjoyed calling it.
Oh, absolutely. One more thing I wanted to talk about that I forgot to talk about was with Sammy Soto and Colby Shearer. Man, like on paper, when this partnership came out at the beginning of the season, this seemed like a top 10, maybe a top 5 team for me in my book, and they just continue to not have the performances that I expect to have of them. Another middle of the road performance. They ended up getting eliminated by Jalen Jones and Colin Hodette, which is obviously a really good team, but I think on paper, if you want to be a top 5, top 10 team, you have to beat teams like the Jalen Joneses and Colby Shearers. And I don't even know who they lost to in the winners bracket because I feel like they lost relatively early. So I don't know what more to expect from these two, right? Because I feel like they're gonna keep getting credit, they're gonna keep getting their flowers, and they're gonna keep getting a lot of support from the analysts and all the outsiders, but they just haven't been able to back anything up yet. And it's starting to get kind of frustrating from a fan of both of these two, right? Because obviously you see the run Sammy Soto had in singles on Sunday. Colby had a pretty decent run as well, but they just can't figure things out on the double side. And I really want to talk to them and sit them down and figure out what exactly is going wrong for them to make them not perform well, because they haven't really done a lot on the pro doubles side either. Let's see. I'm trying to find them in the pro doubles rankings.
They lost to Landon and Riken. But I couldn't agree with you more. They were like the third team that I thought underperformed a little bit.
I mean, still somehow inside the top 20 in pro doubles, tied for 15th right now. But it's one of the teams that it doesn't feel like it, right? Because as a commentator, I don't have the chance to walk around and watch all of their games. So I'm only going to be able to see what is on in front of me in my live stream court. And I feel like, Meesh, you can attest to this. I feel like I've barely seen them on the live stream court this season, maybe once or twice across all events this season, open and signature, which means that they're either losing early in the bracket and having to fight their way through the losers bracket, or we're just, we're looking at other sides of brackets and different brackets when they're making their deep runs. But
we're always looking for good games. So if
Yeah.
they were winning, if they were staying on the winner's side, we would assume whoever they meet a little bit later in the bracket is going to be a good game. So we would put that on the broadcast court. So that to me says that there must be an early loss before they get into some of those games where we think this is going to be a great live stream game, versus like the first couple games when we know it could not be close. Good entertainment, but I haven't watched their path. But I did want to bring up, because both of you talked about chemistry in different ways. And Mike, as a pro player, I guess I'm kind of curious when you see these pro players coming to an open, and then you have those that always play with their pro doubles partner, their committed partner, and then you have the ones that switch it up. And of course, there's circumstances where their partner can't go. But let's assume in the situations where you have the choice of your own committed pro partner, or you're like, let's change it up and play with so and so. Like, what do you think is the strategy there for these pros, and do you think it works?
I can honestly tell you, I don't really understand the strategy, especially when both members of a given team show up. I mean, I think these are high-level matches that getting that time with your pro partner, even though it's not a signature event, I mean, is valuable for both for both players. So, in my opinion, I'd play with my partner every time before I'd switch up. It would be my partner couldn't make it, would be the reason I'm playing with somebody else. As far as what the thought is, I think they're just friends and maybe want to try something new or something different. It just I don't for the sake of advancing your team, I don't understand it.
Or rumor mill testing out a partner for next season.
Well, there you go.
Could be, but I don't know
behind the scenes stuff going on. Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know if there was a scenario in this event where both pro partners were here and they didn't play with each other, right? Because
but we still had a time. I remember last season it happened all the time. Like, what are we doing? Why are we not partnering with each other? Because you talk about Sammy and Colby, amazing players. It's not happening on the double side. You have to go to chemistry. I don't know what I think they throw the same type of bags. I don't think you could say it's like a bag situation. So you got to go to chemistry. Something's off. And you need those reps as a pro team to be able to do that. And sometimes it takes longer, as we all know, with any relationship in our life. It takes time to figure out communication and how to read the other person, anticipate needs, and it might not happen in half a season. So it'll be interesting to watch them and what adjustments that they make. And Mike, do you have any experience with this, with the chemistry being off, with good players, just not seeing it come together in the end?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've experienced it myself, and it takes a time. Timmy Pitcher was my partner for the beginning of the season 2 years ago, and he had backed. He had decided to not continue on playing, and playing with Tyrell, who's a great guy, just took a little bit of time for us to understand each other. He's down there yelling and screaming. I'm a little bit more quiet, so it took a little bit time for us to gel. What I will say about Kobe and Sammy, and what's different about this year, is the season started earlier. And you've seen it every year where somebody's gone through the opens, which would have been opens, which now are signatures, and they're tearing it up. And then, when the season starts, it's not that it's a signature necessarily that they play differently, but it's just people get hot and people get cold at different times. So I think there's still a lot of season for Colby and Sammy to, kind of be where everybody expects them to be, up in, in contention to win a bracket.
That's a good point. Remember a couple of years ago when Alex Hicks made that awesome run, he won like 3 open singles titles, and then this pro season would come around and you'd never heard his name when in the pro brackets, which is crazy, because these opens would still have a ton of pro talent, but he would run through. Remember that crazy 47 round match he had against Matt Guy, and
I remember watching
it. That was crazy.
And then he never did anything in the pro division. So maybe that could be a thing too, right? Just you're halfway through the pro season. You have 3 events left. They're all going to be important. So maybe you're starting to click at the right time. You never know.
Yeah, we always
Exactly. And
talk
if
about.
last year sorry.
I was like, you always talk about we drop one too, so that always
Yeah.
you drop that last event. But yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say last year at this time, I think we may have had one pro event complete.
Yeah.
We're already halfway through the pro season. So it's, everybody's testing out something new, which may also mean, why partners like at this most recent open played with each other as opposed to splitting up.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Moving on to singles, and since Jake tore all the meat off the bone, we're going to start with you, Mike, and let him piggyback off what you have to say.
Well,
But Jayce
you
Fleisher
know,
was our winner, and I know you guys got a lot to say about this kid.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Jayce Fleisher show this weekend. I mean, he was all over the place. He was in the single or the junior events, the junior doubles, but I mean, he really shined in the singles. Jake got to see it live. I certainly watched it on TV, or on the YouTube feed. He was just outstanding. Highlight clip after highlight clip. It didn't take more than 24 hours for those to hit the internet as well. Jayce, I played him. Like I said, I've played him a couple times. He's a fantastic player. Not surprised at all, that he was able to do what he did. But I mean, he did it certainly in dramatic fashion. And I'll say the shot where he dragged the two bags, I thought he was going to go slick side to bring those in. He decided to go up. He hit the bags perfectly, and they kind of stopped for a second, kind of just to they paused and then they fell. I mean, it was so dramatic to win the game. You got to tip your hat to the kid. It was great. I've talked to his parents, before when I've played against him. He's a real nice kid, real quiet, but I think this certainly was his ACL moment this weekend. He dominated.
He absolutely did. All right, Jake, take us through the rest of the singles day.
Yeah, right. I mean, obviously, again, the Jayce Fleisher show, but who else do we need to talk about on the single side, right? How about that entire A bracket, which was pretty gross? Gabe Clausen, biggest shocker of the entire weekend, did not win junior singles. I talked to him. I was like, dude, what the heck happened? You suck now or whatever? And he's like, no, baseball season's around. I pitched on Wednesday and my shoulder was bothering me. But and then I said, oh, wow, okay, makes sense. And then I saw him like 2 hours later after he won junior doubles. And I said, looks like that shoulder's okay. And he's like, yeah,
just fine.
Yeah, I took some ibuprofen. I was good now. And then he just went through an absolute gauntlet in his singles bracket and ran into surprise, Mark Richards in that bracket final, which he has been his big kryptonite. But before we get there, his King Seed game against Zach Aiken, which was awesome. Storylines right himself, right? Zach Aiken and Gabe Clausen, arguably the two best juniors in the entire division right now. Gabe Clausen obviously has all that success on the junior side, but Zach Aiken has that success on the pro single side, something that Gabe Clausen does not have this year. So they both have one career pro singles title, but Zach Aiken has it more recently, and Gabe Clausen was able to get the job done. Mark Richards was able to beat Zach in that third place game to make it back to the bracket. So the big storyline coming in here, Mark Richards versus Gabe Clausen again. Gabe Clausen had not had a single win against Mark Richards this season, 0-5 coming into this bracket final. And he was able to he's able to lose the first game 21-6 in a game that wasn't really close, but he started figuring it out in the end and then smoked Mark Richards 22-8 in game number 2. So Gabe was finally able to get that stress off of his shoulders. Who was he going to have to face though? Jayce Fleisher versus Sammy Soto in that B bracket final. Sammy Soto beat Jayce in game 1 after an incredible game. And then game 2 was probably one of the more fun games. It gets outweighed by that overall finals between Gabe Clausen, but Jayce Fleisher, Sammy Soto, 43 rounds they went in game number 2. Sammy Soto threw an 11 PPR and did not win. They both threw 34 baggers. And again, like Mike alluded to, it all came down to that insane airmail drag. Had 2 bags hanging. I agree with Mike. I thought he was going to go slick side at first too. Flip that bag over to the sticky side. That means I knew he was going to shoot it. Hit the bag. They stopped for just a couple of seconds. Then they ended up falling for the win. And that was only one of the numerous incredible shots Jayce Fleisher hit. He hit a couple of them in that game against Gabriel Clausen, including another ridiculous airmail drag that would end up winning him the game. But, I mean, you got to give the kid his flowers. Is it a surprise? winning it, yes. Being there, absolutely not. I've been on the Jayce Fleisher hype train for a couple of weeks now, and I needed this one performance to actually, and I didn't even need him to win that to get to make me believe in him. But the fact that he did get that win is going to make me believe in him even more. I may be all over that hype train right now. The Iceman, as Burton Grimes referred to him as on the live stream, which I kind of like. I kind of like that nickname. He's ice cold, ice in the veins when he's hitting these shots. I mean, not enough good things to say about him. He's also such a respectful, polite guy. He was raised right. He's got awesome parents. His dad was in the stands watching him. He was right over to our right side. So anytime Jayce would have a crazy shot, I'd look over and see what Jayce's dad is doing. And he almost had a heart attack a couple times. So it was fun watching him react to some of the shots too. But man, Jayce freaking Fleisher, dude, what a performance. Other players I want to shout out in the singles bracket. Gavin Cano had another great run. Fell just short in the King seat game, 22-20, and then fell to Sammy Soto in that third place game. Colin Hodette had a good run. Tony Smith finally had a really good run, including a 23-0 win over Logan Chamberlain. I'm really, really happy to see Tony Smith have a solid singles run. That's what I needed to get me back in his lane. And now I need him to do it again because he come off a third place finish in his pro singles bracket. That's 2 solid singles finishes in a row. Is the old Tony Smith back? We could see it. I want to see him get to a bracket final though. Ty Thompson struggled all weekend, especially in doubles, but he ended up making a deep run, finishing tied for 5th in his bracket. Alongside Logan Chamberlain, also tied for 5th. In the other bracket, in the A bracket, Ethan Farias, shout out Emax, had a really good run, tied for 5th in his bracket. Finished tied for 5th with Matt Guy. So again, we talk about Matt Guy. I would like to see him get top 3, but 5th place, you fall to Mark Richards on that losers bracket because Mark Richards lost pretty early and then went on an absolute tear in that losers bracket. So I feel bad to anybody on that right side having to drop down and be like, okay, maybe I can make a run, and then you get the text that you have to play Mark Richards. That's not very fun. That's not very fair. Who else? I'm just looking through here. Made some. Quinn Reeves had a decent run. Didn't play well in doubles with Austin Wasco, but made a decent run in singles. Jack McKinney, taking the back step in the Jayce Fleisher spotlight, but he had a pretty decent weekend as well too. Braden Berry is another junior player that is starting to make his name in the ACL, and he finished, I believe, tied for 7th in his bracket. Just beat Brett Guy and then lost to Emax as well. So all in all, I mean, there are a lot of fresh faces, a lot of new faces in this bracket that are going to make me keep an eye on them in the next signature coming up in Cleveland in just 8 days. Meesh, we leave for Cleveland, Ohio. Quick turnaround for this one.
Well, yeah, I'm not in your guys' position. I didn't go to lacrosse, so it doesn't feel so rushed for me, but I can only imagine. I remember a couple seasons ago, the way the schedule was, I sometimes had 3 days in between, and then I was back out. So I know that feeling well. But Mike, anything to add here as we wrap up our singles day?
Nah, just that it was a lighter field as far as in comparison to some of the other locations throughout the year, but 6 out of the top 8 players in the world, at least ranking wise, were there. So all the credit to Jayce, being able to navigate through that field, and it was definitely fun to watch.
So I'm curious now, as Jayce gets all this love, and I think you know him pretty well, Jake. Like, is this something that it will be like, oh, this is the fuel I needed to break out, or is this, oh my gosh, this is a ton of pressure now? Like, which way you think he's going?
No, I don't think he's going to face much pressure because he's been in the pro division for a couple of years now, or maybe if not in the pro division, noticed as one of the top players in the field for quite a while now. It's just he needed this one breakthrough performance, which he did, and again, I mentioned, I don't think he needed it because he had already played so well in junior singles and junior doubles and high school and open doubles the day before. So I didn't really think that he needed a win for me to be like, yeah, this kid's legit. This kid's going to be really good. But the fact that he did get the win makes me even more confident that this kid is being like, yep, I'm here. I'm here to stay. Because I said it on the broadcast, the top 3 junior players in no specific order, Gabe Clausen, Zach Aiken, Cash Hamness. And I said for a couple weeks now, we've been looking for that fourth player. We thought it was going to be Peyton Misters after that first event, after he had a great run. He's kind of fallen off a little bit. But now we're looking for who else it is going to be. Jayce Fleisher could very well be that number 4. I think I'm confident in putting him in that number 4 spot right now. I don't think I can put him above Gabe, Zach, or Cash at this moment, but I think he's confidently slotted in that number 4 spot.
Yeah, Mike, there's a lot of talk about the youth taking over this sport. And of course, there's things like, well, they don't have jobs, they don't have families, things like that. But what do you think about just the fact that when they play in that junior field and their junior singles, junior doubles, the amount of talent they have to go through every single time they play in that? Is that just making them bulletproof when they get to these singles and doubles matches, or what is it about the youth?
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, anytime you get to play against the level of competition that's in that junior division, it makes you a better player. It would just be better if the junior division players only played in the junior division, because they bring all that talent up into the pro division. And, they're like little robots. They don't seem to be phased. It's like they weren't born with nerves, many of them. And, they play a really well-rounded game of being able to do everything, including the roll shot. You block them. It's a pretty easy get around for them. They're not relying on airmails as much. They're just there's a lot of players. It's almost like your best chance is that they hit a growth spurt, and maybe that puts them off a little bit on their pitch.
I mean, we've seen it happen.
Well, I was going to ask,
Mike,
what's your record against junior players this season in the pro division? If you know off the top of your head.
This wasn't part of the
He's like, wait a second.
I've had a very tough run here. So I lost to Jayce. I lost to Ace. Aiden in 2 pro events. I've lost to Cash. And I've actually done pretty decent in the singles. Mediocre to above mediocre in the pro single events so far. But I think against like 14 and younger, I'm 0-3 so far this year. So I'm too nice of a guy. I want to root for them, So
yeah,
you got to be cutthroat.
No, yeah, I'm just gonna ignore that they're only 4 feet tall and little kids.
One more player I want to spotlight in the juniors. Oh, not in the juniors, just in general, is Chase White, right? We talk about him every time we talk about him, the advanced singles world champion. I was a little nervous because he lost his his second game, and it wasn't really close in junior singles to Zach Aiken, 22-0 through a 7-8-9. It wasn't great, and then he went on a run and finished, I think, 4th. Now I didn't really see his name much in open singles, so obviously he can compete against these younger players, but I want to see a good open or pro singles run for Chase White coming up here soon, or I'm gonna start losing a little bit of that luster that Chase White got from the World Championships.
Yeah, he's a fantastic player. I've seen him play. I've played against him as well, and I mean, I think he's great. No, just like you said, he lost to Zach 21-0. Wasn't even in the match. I think he shot under an 8 for that. Then he goes to beat Jack McKinney, who we saw perform in doubles. Zane Crott, I believe is his last name. I played against that kid as well. He's really good. And then beats Gabe Clausen, you may have mentioned before. And I mean, I think he played Braden Berry as well. Like, he went through Murderer's Row in the losers bracket. Shows a lot, and got back into the finals there. He's a great player.
Yeah,
that is not a fun path. Talk about the juniors field. Nobody wants that. All right, we'll just keep it going talking about juniors. Our junior singles winner was Zach Aiken, as Jake mentioned, not Gabriel Clausen, but also not BG. That's the first time this whole season BG has not won juniors. I run that fantasy cornhole thing, so I have like the list of the winners every week. And I'm thinking, man, if anybody picks a different bag company than BG for juniors, they're stupid. And who was the one person that picked cornhole scenario? None other than Wally K9 Kassler. And when I saw his form come in, I was like, what an idiot. It's got to be BG. And he freaking got it. So yeah. I gotta, hats off.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? literally 100% of the entry of the winners have been BG, right? You mentioned it was all Gabe, then it was Cash. Why would you not? Because especially, some of the other players in the juniors division who still also throw BG bags, because there's like Jayce Fleisher, Gabe Clausen, Ethan Farias throws BG bags. Who else? Chase White throws BG bags. Zane Krotz, I believe, throws. He may throw Brotherhood, but again, there's still a ton of talent in the juniors division who still throw BG bags. So it makes no sense to vote against BG bags. But I guess
he did. But he did. Now he looks smart. But junior doubles did go to BG. Ethan Farias, Gabriel Clausen. Moving over to women's, Dia Lee takes women's singles, and Sam Finley and Mikayla Calvey take doubles. And for seniors, Matt Guy with the sweep and wins junior doubles with Joanne Martin. Joanne Martin technically could have played women's or seniors, chose to play in seniors. I randomly pulled up the seniors bracket, and I saw her game between Matt Guy, and I said, who the heck is this lady? Because she took it to him.
I honestly think if it wasn't for Jayce Fleisher having such an incredible weekend and being in the spotlight all weekend long, Joanne Martin probably would have been in the spotlight as well. Because, like you mentioned, let's go find that match. Because again, Matt Guy for some reason loves to lose early
in seniors.
He lost his first game again and went through an entire gauntlet, and then boom, here comes this Joanne Martin chick. I've never heard of her before. Joanne Martin scored 16 points in this game. It went 38 rounds. She threw an 11.13 PPR, and Matt Guy was still able to take her down, and that is crazy. So Joanne Martin was on fire all day long, and then she was like, you know what? If I can't beat him, why don't I join him? So she teamed up with Matt Guy, smoked everybody in senior doubles, and then you think we go around tomorrow. She plays open rounders with this guy named JD, who I've never heard of before. He's from the Chicago area. Dave Morse talked very, very highly of him. They're playing on the live stream court right before we're about to go live in a rounders game against Colin Odette and Jalen Jones. Joanne whooped Jalen's ass. It was not close. I'm pretty sure she had over a 1 DPR, and they beat Colin and Jalen. It's the only loss they had in rounders. So shout out to her. And then I think we had her on a live stream court early in doubles. I think they lost, but it was a close game. Or maybe they won. I don't remember. It was crazy. But shout out Joanne Martin, yo. What a freaking weekend. The only other shout out I want to give before I give the floor back to Mike is Dia Lee. Man, Dia Lee, she's one of those players that, we haven't seen her in a while on the live stream court in women's singles. Everybody knows she won women's singles at the World Championships a few years ago. But to have her get the job done again on the women's side is really fun to see. Had to double dip Kiara Peterson to do it. Feel bad for Kiara. She's really good too. But man, hey, Dia Lee may be back. Keep an eye out for her in the women's division as the season progresses.
Dia's mental game is really strong. Yes. I remember that when she won back at Worlds. I was watching her do resets. I was watching her take deep breaths. I was watching her have an awareness of her state, and that to me is high level mental game. And we saw it. She stepped off the court. You guys were like, where did Dia go? And she did a little, I don't know. I mean, obviously I don't know because I was watching at home, but I'm pretty sure she just went and did a reset, which is what I always tell players. Take the time out. Do not throw a bag from a state in which you're not going to throw well. You need to be in the right state, or don't throw the bag. And she does that really, really well. But thoughts on women's, seniors, and juniors, Mike?
Yeah. I want to jump back to the seniors. The Joanne Martin, I noticed that as well. Threw a 10.68 over 106 rounds. That's pretty good for somebody I've never heard of. No offense, Joanne. I just, hadn't crossed paths. So yeah,
we know you now.
Yeah, exactly. She made a statement. But I also want to call out another player. So you look at the seniors, you got Matt Guy, Donald Cup, and
Steve Schrader.
Steve Schrader. Yeah, those are your most, kind of well-known seniors in there. The very first game Matt Guy plays is against a guy named Andy Graff. So Andy Graff is from, I did a little research on him because another name I hadn't heard. He's from La Crosse, Wisconsin. So maybe in the old adage is if you sleep in your own bed at night, you play better. Well, maybe especially in the senior division, that probably holds true. He comes out, he beats Matt Guy. Then he takes on John Brandon, who's probably happy that he doesn't have to play Matt Guy, beats John Brannon, friend of the show, I'm sure. Continues to go on, also beats Donald Cup, Steve Schrader until, losing to Matt Guy, gets double dip, but that's okay. Upon my research of Andy Graff, again, from lacrosse, the second thing, he's fond of baking, and he calls himself the Cookie King. So I just thought that was a little fun fact about
Did you get
him.
cookies?
Yeah,
So-
I don't know.
so
insert bad pun here, but he's
Well, because
fond of
whenever
baking.
people we had moonshine someone and jerky, and then they always bring us the goods.
So he brought a bunch of cookies.
Oh my
he
God.
really did stop it.
The only problem is there is a very, very strict no outdoor food policy allowed in the lacrosse center. They were checking bags as they were walking in every morning, and his cookies got confiscated. So I did not get a chance to get his cookies. But he also makes these incredible caramels that he somehow snuck in and was able to get just pieces of caramel. Oh my God, it was the best caramel I ever had in my entire life. And so I can't even imagine.
The Cookie King.
I can't even imagine how good those cookies were, man.
Do you guys know that I don't like desserts? I'm not a sweets person, but cookies are my favorite. That's the only thing I care about. And I'm also a cookie snob.
I was so mad I didn't get any. But again, Andy Graff is also really fun because he's one of those seniors that will talk your ear off, and that's why the senior division took so long. When he played Donald Cup, that match was assigned 30 minutes before the game actually started because they stood on the court talking for 25 minutes before they threw back. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty common in the senior division.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. All right, moving on to Overreaction Wednesday. I'll read a line and then you guys tell me if it's an overreaction or not. Starting off with, there are only about 8 players, or you can go either 8 singles players or 8 doubles teams in the world who can actually win a big event right now, Jake.
I don't really think that's an overreaction. And I think it's going to allude to a question that you ask in a couple minutes. But I think the pro division is so top heavy. We're consistently seeing the same number of players win every event. I think Jayce Fleisher is an awesome outlier, and it's really fun to see him do that. But if Gabe Clausen would have scored 2 points before Jayce Fleisher scored 2 points, this would have backed it up even more, right? It's the same players every single time. And maybe I think the singles division is a little more spread out than the doubles division. I think the doubles division is even worse. You mentioned, I mentioned, Logan and Gavin are the number 5 team in the world, and they haven't even made a pro doubles Final Four because we're consistently seeing some of the same teams pop up in that pro doubles Final Four. That's why they're so high. And I think we're going to continue to see that same consistency pop up as well. So I don't think that's an overreaction at all.
Mike?
Total overreaction. Now, there are definitely some blue bloods, some players that, you expect to see there. And we talk about, well, why weren't they there this time? But just think about this year. The last pro event, the National, you had Cameron and Ryan Windsor. They're probably outside of your top 8. And now their ranking might be higher because of that performance. How about Nyberg and Colin Powers? They're not one that you would have thought to see at every event. And then on top of it, until this year, Ryan Wiedenfield and Chris Roybal as a new team, both excellent players. You can see it happening. You wouldn't have penciled them in as, a consistent top 10. So I think there are more teams out on the outside looking in that could definitely get there, like a Gage Landis, Colin Hodette. There's a number of other ones, just drawing a blank at the moment. But I think we are definitely a little deeper than the top 8 to potentially win a doubles. And in singles, it's even worse. You have guys like Noah Almanza ranked 70th right now, and other players that historically had been up in that top 8 discussion, whatever number you want to pick. I think it's much deeper. We just tend to see some of those teams like Jamie and Jacob, Gavin and Logan consistently there, Mark and Tony. So yeah. I think it's a little bit more open than that.
All right. Jayce Fleisher's run wasn't a fluke, and we'll see him in another final this year.
Yeah, I don't think that's much of an overreaction, right? Again, I'm all over the hype train, so I may have a little bit more of a bias towards him, but the way he performed last weekend is so good. And it wasn't just in one event. It was in every single thing he played. He walked away with 4 plaques last weekend in almost every event he played in. The only event he didn't do well in, it was a sit and go, and my dad beat him in the final. So shout out John Brandon, he beat him in the sit and go. But besides that, no, I think Jayce Fleisher it was not a fluke at all. Now it may not be right away, but I wouldn't. I think we'll see him again soon.
Mike?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's an overreaction because that's the easier side to take, and this is the side that he won't win, another singles, final. So we got a number of events left. Most of them are signature events. You have Rhode Island and then you have a Washington Open. Those are probably his two best opportunities to take another singles or to win a doubles with a partner. I don't know what his proclivity for traveling is. Like, does he go to all of the events? But Rhode Island is probably going to be a pretty good turnout, as far as, a deep field. So it'll just be more difficult. So I'm just going to play the odds and say that at the signature events, which are stacked with everybody, Rhode Island will most likely be stacked. Washington, if he travels there, I just think the chances are against him for repeating what he did this week. And that's not a knock on him at all.
Shout out Mike Hoffman, first ever guest to use the word proclivity on Around the ACL. Shout out.
The middle tier of pros is shrinking. You're either a contender or you're not.
I don't think this is an overreaction at all. I think it's pretty good. Yeah. Again, I think, like I said prior, I think the pro division is so top heavy. I think you're either going to you're going to have a chance to make a broadcast, or you're not going to have a chance to make a broadcast, right? Because I think you can kind of split it down the middle. You look at maybe these top 15 teams in pro doubles. We're going to end it with Sammy Soto and Colby Shear because I still think there's a sliver of a chance they can make a broadcast. Anybody below them, I think there's maybe one or two outliers, but I don't think any of these guys have a strong real chance at making a broadcast. And if you look on the single side, I think it's the same way. You can make the cutoff at maybe 14 with Sammy Soto. Anybody below 14, maybe one outlier like a Gavin Cano at 19. I don't see any of these guys making a Pro 4 in pro singles either.
Mike?
Yeah, Jake's wrong again. I mean, you look at doubles, you have Colin Hodette and Gage as 17, so that's outside of his 15. Jordan Power and Chris Kingsbury, 21. Jacob and Jamie, obviously, that they're an outlier, on their ranking, but there's a ton of excellent players. Devin Harbaugh, if he gets it together, like, in the Devin of old, he and AJ. I mean, there's a lot of talent. Moving over, was this just the doubles or singles as well? We're talking singles as well,
You
right?
can go either way. Yeah, it's open.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, there are just a ton of players, I think, that are in that 20 to 40 range that I think on any given day. I mean, when we're getting down to these bracket finals, it's really coming down to who's making the shots, who's getting the breaks sometimes. I mean, I think it's there for a much deeper field than what we see. We just see Mark and Tony quite a bit, Gavin and Logan. So we kind of get desensitized into thinking that it is more top heavy than it is.
Matt Guy and Brett Guy are capable of a signature win this season.
Capable, yes. Will they actually do it? I don't think so. And again, it goes back to what I was talking to earlier, right? They're the best bag running team in the league, but if they play against a team who likes blocks and rolls like they did this weekend, they are at a disadvantage, and that's exactly what happened. The problem is, the deeper you get into brackets, the more susceptible you are to playing against teams who like to block and roll. And I think that's their one kryptonite. If they can work on figuring that out, we saw Brett Guy hit a couple slick side rolls this weekend. We even saw Matt Guy hit an accidental roll this weekend. So maybe if they can work on that, possibly, but I don't think it's possible.
Mike?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to disagree again. I definitely think it's possible. I mean, first of all, I got to tell you, I'm a big Matt Guy fan. I love what Brett's doing with the wrestling, so I got to give him props for that. Right now, they're number 8 in the world, and I think probably their best chance might be Cleveland. So hear me out. As the 8th seed, they would be the second seed in the Roy Ball Wiedenfield bracket. So obviously that's not ideal, but that's going to be on the other side. Their 3rd seed would be Kobe Costanza and Tommy Sliker. So assuming they get through everything in between, that would be the 3rd seed. Definitely a game that they can win. And then anything can happen depending on who gets to the other side. So I absolutely think there is a pathway. It would need to be a favorable bracket, just like I think everybody who ultimately wins it has some sort of break throughout the brackets. But I definitely think that they could win a bracket and win a doubles.
All right. I like that you disagree with Jake every single time.
That was not intentional, by the way.
That's fine. I think that's good. That's good stuff. But we'll move on to hot takes. And Jake, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, it's a Jayce Fleisher show. Might as well keep it in my hot take. I think Jayce will, in fact, back up the performance. And I think I'm going to go out on a limb. That's why it's hot takes. I think he wins a pro singles bracket at one of these signatures.
I like it. I like it. All right, Mike?
All right, I had more hot takes than Wally had going away parties, but I'll put it down to one.
That's so
Um,
great.
I think Gavin Cano is going to win Cleveland Signals.
Ooh,
Oh, I like it.
Yeah,
I
I
like
think he's kind of played a little bit of the background to Logan so far this year. I think this is his breakout.
All right, and I'm going
buying
to
that.
continue on the Dia Lee train. I mentioned how much I like her mental game. I think she took a little break and is coming in strong, so I put her to win another women's event this season. All right, guys, thank you so much, Mike. So appreciate you stepping in and filling in as an analyst. It was awesome having you, and we'll see everybody next time.